The Rockpile Report, the pettiest, hardest drinking Bills podcast.
Welcome, everybody, to another edition of the Rockpile Report podcast. I'm your host, Bills season ticket holder Drew Gear. That's my producer, Chris Kruger. We got Ryan Lasal riding shotgun in studio with us tonight. And, it's really good to see that, a team can go down in the first half behind a bunch of offensive ineptitude and then come out of the locker room at halftime with a really solid game plan and go down and just absolutely close out an inferior opponent. Oh, wait a minute. This is an Alabama Crimson Tide podcast. Oh, I'm sorry. We're not talking about the Alabama Crimson Tide here. Oh, no. We're here tonight to talk about the Buffalo Bills, which, it's not going to be that simple. Chris, I'm starting the show with a Living House Beer Company Harris West Coast IPA. Compliments of Eric Harris. It's almost funny. Harris West Coast.
Yeah, they came. The beer came in like an hour before we started recording, so I immediately put them in the freezer. So hopefully that's cold enough for you to drink.
Oh, it's the perfect temperature for an IPA. It's amazing. Ryan, you want to take a sip of that?
Absolutely.
For being a West Coast IPA, see, the New England IPAs are a little bit heavier and hazier. That's clean.
Yeah, it's good.
It drinks clean, and it's light on the palate. It's a little piney, but not overpowering. Nothing that, some Ithaca beer snob would be like, well, actually, it's got 9 different citrus. Shut up. It's a drinkable IPA. You've already convinced me. Now stop selling it, you hipster. Get back in your Subaru. Get back in your Subaru before I start a fire.
Here's my IPA right here.
Yeah. Oh, Seagram's for Chris. Woo! Get some. Chris, how bad is that Seagram's? On the scale of you had them all.
What's the flavor?
How bad is
Blueberry acai lemonade.
Oh, God, that sounds awful.
Chris, it's worse than the usual ones, isn't it?
It's bad. It's pretty sweet.
He goes, it stings the nostrils.
You know what he's doing? He's treating that Seagram's like a lot of people are treating Ken Dorsey today.
Nice and delicate.
Holding their nose, knowing it's awful, but trying to justify the outcome.
So, of course, like all things, obviously no one listens to my draft prognostication. Nobody listens to the things. There's a reason for that. Because when I get behind an idea or if I'm really sold on something, then obviously a lot of the times it just goes tits up and dies. Like a goldfish when you were 8 that you wanted to fair. So,
can you throw me a water?
Yeah, you...
I can't have beer tonight. I got to go to work, so... Hands.
You might also, I don't know, do you want some epinephrine?
That also might be Bills fans after Thursday night, depending on how the offense comes out.
Yeah.
I can only imagine if I go to work tonight and they're like, we heard you did a podcast tonight and you were drinking on it. Well, it was only a Seagram's. And then they go to do a breathalyzer and they're like, all right, you pass. But you might have diabetes.
Also, you need to go seek medical attention.
Diabetes so bad we can pick it up through a breathalyzer. That's bad.
So here's what I'll say as we kind of lead tonight's show off. I take a look at Sean McDermott, and I take a look at Ken Dorsey, and I take a look at Josh Allen. So much of the discourse in the last, 18 hours? We're not even, 24? We're now 24 hours and change removed.
It's a perfect game for you to recap.
Yeah.
24 hours
24
after
hours
it
later,
happened.
on the fly. Because everyone goes, well, Drew, he'll eventually sober up and find some nuance, whatever. I wasn't drunk. I was sober for that nonsense. I had to take it in the eyes like a man. It was literally getting jabbed in the eyeballs with the Three Stooges style. And I had no choice but to sit there and fucking take it. Because I can't scream at the TV. If I say the word shit in front of my son, immediately just, bad word. Or when I get on a tear and I go, I don't care.
Yeah.
He just kind of whispers, Daddy said a bad word. I can hear him whispering to my wife, Daddy said a bad word. He said it. So I try to limit this because I know he'll repeat it. That team crushed me yesterday. You guys did what? And I should I shouldn't be shocked by anything this team does. And yet I was. Because I was led to believe that you guys had developed this roster, this quarterback, this coaching staff, to a degree that you could not lose to a team that only threw, like your quarterback whose average yards per throw was 3.3 yards. I'm sorry. I thought you had built something here. I'm the one who's... In fact, I don't need you to apologize to me. I don't want... Everyone's like, they need to come out and say they're sorry and lament and tell us all the ways they're going to fix it. No. This is my fault. This is my fault for believing in you. That's the problem. Mm-hmm. Guys, you look at what happened yesterday and, like, I don't know. I don't know what to say. I don't have to do anymore. The only thing I did, and I did put it in our group chat, it didn't get the laugh I thought it deserved, so I'm bringing it to the podcast. All I can think of when you get the three of them together, Dorsey, Allen, McDermott, everyone goes, well, who? This guy's to blame. No, that guy's to blame. No, this guy's to blame. And I go, I don't fucking care. Give me a football game that goes the way it's supposed to go for the money that I've seen you spend and the time that you spent on task and what you all sell yourselves to be. They are Michael Scott from The Office. And all I can think of is Jan. Remember the episode, Ryan, when he's getting...
I knew it as soon as you started the quote.
The deposition.
Yeah.
Where they're reading Jan's performance review of Michael Scott. And they say, what? I am out of carrots. I'm out of sticks. Time and again, he has proven to be an unmanageable employee. The problem is that unlike her suggestion to relegate Michael Scott back to sales where he belongs, there's nowhere to send these people back to. Josh Allen is an NFL star quarterback who for some reason is muzzled to a degree that he is unrecognizable from rookie CJ Stroud, from Kenny Pickett. For 3/4 of every game for the last 3 weeks, you have looked no different than Kenny Pickett. Now what?
And I think
now what do we do?
I think one of the biggest problems I have is that he just doesn't look like he's having fun. And that was one of the things about Josh, right? Like, he was the golden retriever. He was always out there having a good time. He'd throw a pick, and the next time down, he'd uncork a 65-yard ball to Gabe Davis, and he'd go run down the field flexing. Like,
everything about this team that I was led to believe would be better is now broken. And I mean everything.
True.
From the top to the bottom.
True.
What?
1-0 Canadians.
And of course the Sabres are losing.
Yeah.
So that's fine. That's great. Listen, I'm like Will Ferrell inside the suit in Blades of Glory, where I'm out there at the ice capades. I'm hammered in this thing. This is what, 3,
and
6?
Only one of those is mine, so
I'm 6 drinks in, and I'm just in a suit. Let it rain down on me. Yeah. What else? What else do you have? I don't care
Bill Murray
anymore.
and Kingpin.
Yeah, Bill, this is it. Buffalo sports can't hurt me anymore. I think I've reached that point, and it's only week 8. What I hate, everything is broken. Everything that was working well in our victories and the games where we looked so impressive. Our pass protection. Josh Allen was pressured on 41% of his dropbacks against a team with no Matt Judon. Right now, Torrance is really struggling.
Yeah, he's looking like a rookie.
Mitch Morse is struggling. And you wonder why Torrance is doing poorly, and all of a sudden you go, well, wait a minute. One of your most veteran offensive linemen is having a bad stretch. 3 consecutive games where he does not look the part of a starting center in the NFL. If you had told me that they had swapped him out for one of the weird backups going on in New Jersey down there for the Giants, I would have believed you. If you take the nameplate off and you watch his play, Morse already looks washed. So that's good. That's great. Pass rush has evaporated. We're no longer generating meaningful pressure that dictates play. Our pass catching has fallen apart. Wide receivers dropping balls. missing things they could have, quarterback just firing 500-mile-an-hour passes to guys who can't possibly catch that. Passing accuracy. How many touch passes did Josh miss? Just miss. And everyone goes,
First one of the game.
And everyone goes, well, that's probably the effect. No, later in the game, there was a play where if he just has a little bit more touch and drops it in the bucket to Kincaid, he's probably still running down the sideline with momentum, and it's an easy touch.
Well, it was the Diggs ball. The one deep ball that they dialed up, and he overthrew Diggs.
Oh, no, I'm not even talking about that.
No, I know, but that's another example of one.
And they go, well, and now everyone starts coming out, banged up Bills on Twitter. Our friend Kyle Trimble, he's like, well, that's a byproduct of the shot. Okay.
Yeah.
But you knew that. You knew that was the thing you were going to deal with. So your accuracy's done, your catching, your pass rush, your pass protection, your run defense and tackling have now decided to fail you in a very critical moment. Your kicking. Your kicking unit is comprised of players who you handpicked. There are no new faces. These are two gentlemen, in Reed Ferguson and Tyler Bass, who you chose to extend. You chose to keep these gentlemen around. You chose to keep a punter. Punters are punters, or punters are punters. No one gives a fuck about a punter.
No.
You chose to hang on to this one. I don't care what's wrong. You need to stop missing field goals. It almost cost us a week ago. I don't know what impact this week would have had on decision-making on New England's part if the scoreboard looked a little different. But what I do know is you can't miss fucking field goals. Not when you've extended your kicker. When you have decided as a football team, that's the guy. Yeah, I have so much confidence in that guy that I'm giving him a contract extension.
It's the definition of the casual fan who yells at games, you have one job, right? Yep. Like, you have one job, is just make field goals.
And what's frustrating when you look at all these broken dynamics is that there is a large number of extended or retained players who make up the crux of everything that went wrong this weekend. You chose, rather than to move on from Tim Settle and to try to get better, you said, no, he's willing to take a pay cut so I can live with Tim Settle. Can you? Can you live with Tim Settle being one of your starting defensive tackles? I think we now know the answer is no.
Yeah. You made the decision to not use Gabe Davis in a trade to go upgrade at wide receiver 2.
I'm arguing with Greg Thompson in a group chat that I have with him with his cousin and Justin Hulberg, friend of the show. And I'm making my typical hyperbolic statements, but I said, it's crazy to me that I don't know what you're trying to accomplish. Here you are playing a team that does not separate well. You're 7 weeks into an NFL season and 3 of your wide receivers are in the NFL's basement for separation stats. Okay. So then you should lean on this team. And instead we're playing 7 yards of cushion. And then you watch Dane Jackson at the start of a snap back up 2 yards and give the slant route that gets 9 for a first down. And I go, what the fuck are we doing here? And they go, well, Dane Jackson's not that fast and they're worried about him getting beat. You chose that. Yeah. You picked him to be your depth option. So then what you're telling me is that you literally on purpose tied one hand behind your back when it came to who your personnel was because he was cheap. Fuck you. That means you're not creative. As a coach, as a talent evaluator, as someone who... Brandon Beane gets a lot of credit for making savvy moves and smart signings. And I don't dislike a lot of the things we've done recently in the draft. Terrell Bernard is now showing hey, that was all right.
Yeah.
We bagged on it. All right. He needed a year. Now he's seasoned. He looks the part of a quality NFL linebacker. What I don't like, though, is that in order to make a move, what people don't understand, in order to make a move on from Dane Jackson, what you need is a coach who goes to the GM and says, hey, I need another corner. Mm-hmm. This is a problem. I know we just drafted one in the first round, but I need another corner because I can't exist with what I have. McDermott isn't pushing for that.
Yeah, I think the overarching... And I kind of put this together as we were getting ready to go live. The overarching sense of things that I get is that McDermott likes to let his players. He has a lot of faith in his players.
Okay, you know who else did? Roy Williams is why I thought he was, as a Carolina Tar Heels fan, I thought for all of his panache and all of his pedigree, he was one of the worst NCAA head coaches. But because he could recruit and he could bring you talent.
Right, and here's the thing, right? So Von Miller, who's now hurt again, they let him dictate
when he was
came back too early.
Yep.
We can probably make the argument that he came back too early now, right? You get rid of Brian Dable and you let Josh Allen pick your offensive coordinator. You need a tight end, you let Josh Allen dictate, let's extend Dawson Knox, we'll give him the contract that he needs. You go to your coach as a GM and you go, Sean, feel like we're a little thin at corner. Can you make it work? And McDermott goes, yeah, I can make it work with these guys. End of story. So you know what they do when they go out and you lose your all-pro corner? You sign Josh Norman off the street. You know what the Eagles did today?
They just traded for
when they
Kevin
found
Byard.
out that when they had struggles at safety yesterday against the Dolphins, they went out and traded for Kevin Byard, a former all-pro.
Because they say, listen, we're serious about winning a Super Bowl.
And they made it in a way where they only accrued $1.09 million in salary cap.
So for all the credit we give this front office, there are other teams who are, I get a text from Justin Uhlberg that just says, this is not a serious organization.
Name
I can't argue with him because I look at what's happening here on the field and I look at the people you brought in to man this football team. I look at the fact that some of the guys that you signed, Rapp's tackling is brutal. Mm-hmm. He takes bad angles and he can't tackle. Dodson is taking snaps for you. Fucking let Dorian Williams run around and look lost out there. At least he'll learn something. Dodson's too old. He's not going to learn anything else. He's just limited, which is why he was an undrafted free agent.
But therein lies the issue with Sean. We don't have any depth behind Milano. What do you want to do? Oh, he's fine. We're fine back there. I got faith in my guys.
It's fucking brutal, man. To watch that game, your quarterback literally puts the entire team on his back, gets you the lead, does the thing. Poyer makes the punch out. We're going for it. We score. We win. We're winning. For the first time all day, we have a fucking lead. Mm-hmm. All you have to do is not let the worst offense in football go 70 yards. On the first play, you give up a screen pass that goes the length of the field.
And even in that moment, it felt like the way that the offense was playing, it felt like I can live with overtime. We're going to win this game. If it goes to overtime.
I told my wife we were done, and I went out and I started the turkey fryer so I could go make chicken wings because I was like, no, I've seen this movie. And this iteration of the Buffalo Bills in 2023 is every bad Bills movie I've ever seen. Mm-hmm. And they didn't disappoint me. And that's the most disappointing part about it, is that I can now predict what a flop you are on defense. And you can tell me I've heard all the excuses. Oh, you lost this all-pro and you did this and then... Are you not an NFL caliber head coach? Right? Your pedigree was defensive coordinator. This is what you do. This is why we don't have a defensive coordinator right now. We didn't go out and seek out a Gus Bradley or who was the guy who's there? Jim Schwartz. We didn't go out and seek out a Vic Fangio, a Mike Pettin, because you're the guy. So you don't get to turn around and tell me that you're somehow not responsible.
Well,
or allay like, well, we're facing a lot of adversity. No. You're so good, you're supposed to be able to overcome that. And if not, then you should have gotten someone else who's talented in your corner.
And therein lies the issue with McDermott. This isn't Andy Reid or Nick Sirianni or Sean McVay, who lost 4 defensive starters and they're struggling on the defensive side of the football, right? Those are offensive guys, right? So if you look at a head coach and you go, hey, you're struggling defensively, your answer is, listen, we're dealing with injuries, we're working through it, we're trying to figure out what to, like, this is what you came up doing.
You exist because of this.
Right. You're supposed to... If there's an injury on the defensive side of the football, you're supposed to, as a defensive-minded coach, you're supposed to scheme it, patch it, cover it up, fix it somehow, right? Like, it's your job as the defensive guy.
No. Instead, what's happening is when you watch the way the offense runs, everyone goes, "Oh, look!" And mind you, James Cook has been fantastic this year. He's been fantastic this year, and it frustrates me because I don't want to shit on him. I don't want to crap all over what Kincaid's been doing because he's been getting more and more involved. Shakir finally is present. He looks impactful. He's making plays. But this thing is a reflection of who runs it.
Yeah, and I mean, instead of defensively fixing it, right? Instead of going to Bean and saying, I need help. Go, we got to go all in. We got to make a trade for a defensive player. Instead, what's happened is it seems as though he's gone to Dorsey and said, I need you to keep my defense off the field. So I need you to put long, sustained drives together.
Yep.
So my defense doesn't have to play defense.
And for anybody who says that's bullshit, first of all, I want you to read the quote. Now, this is from today's press conference. It literally started airing as we were recording. He and I watched it. First, I think it's best read by Ryan, and then we're going to fill in a little context.
So Ken Dorsey was asked what his relationship with Sean McDermott and what McDermott's input on the offense is as the head coach. And Ken Dorsey says, Sean McDermott has, quote, some input on the Bills offense and, quote, philosophical ideas of what he wants to see, and that is mixed in with our offense. Can I start by asking, Ken, if you're being held hostage, blink twice in your next press conference.
I want you all to go to BuffaloBills.com and watch the interview. When he answers this question, I've never seen this body language on a person who is a confident person, who was answering like, oh my God, you just asked me a loaded question. I'm going to get myself in trouble. He has all the body language of a guy who knows that this is not what he wants and he's doing it anyway. Mm-hmm. Now, I pair this up with I have on good authority because there's a lot of things I know, right? Like I don't talk about, hey, Chris, hashtag sources. Fuck those guys. Although I love some of them. Some of them, but most of them can kick rocks. I have sources. I know for a fact that the Jaguars game last year was a breaking point in a certain relationship, or no, 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
2021.
Yeah.
Was a breaking point where someone had to go to somebody else and apologize for trying to ham-fist a running game. And that it was a major point of contention. And that it created ill will that couldn't be undone. That it had a certain someone asserting that the Bills had to be a running football team that had balance, right? Because that was going to be the thing that won a Super Bowl.
Can I read this when you're done?
Hang on. So that was going to be the thing that would bring us to prominence. And after that Jaguars game, there was a very heated conversation in which Sean McDermott abdicated control of the offense, and you watched what we did afterwards. Now, believe me, don't believe me, I don't care because I'm not here for you. I'm here for me tonight. Now, go ahead and read what you have there in front of you.
So Nate Geary went back, and Chris, this is going to be a trivia question for you. I'm going to pull you in on this podcast. Nate Geary went back and charted every second down and 4 or less, so second and 4 or less, until the final 2 drives where they were in catch-up mode. Second and 4, James Cook run. Second and 2, James Cook run. Second and 3, James Cook run. Second and 4, Chris, finish the sentence.
James Cook run and more fantasy points for me.
Second and 2,
James Cook run.
Second and 4,
James Cook run.
So 6 times before the final 2 drives of the game, 6 times the team faced second and 4 or less. Now, I'm someone who does Division III football, right? Like this is not something to toot my horn about. I do play-by-play for the Division III Brockport Golden Eagles football team. Have done it 6th season. I'm doing it with Mario Granada. An elemental, I call it, during the games. Everyone's impressed that I do it, right? Coach Mangoni, the head coach, if he gets into a second and 4th or shorter, He's taking a shot downfield.
Yeah.
That's a fundamental part of his offense. If you're in a second
play.
Second and 2, second and 3, what's the worst case scenario that happens besides an interception? 3rd and 3? You're an NFL team led by a $250 million quarterback that you decided to pay $250 million for, who has arguably the largest arm that we have ever seen in the NFL, and a wide receiver that is a top 5-3 wide receiver in the NFL, and you're scared of 3rd and 3. You're scared of 3rd and 4. Scared to the point where you're not willing to take a shot downfield. You took one shot, and that was Stephon Diggs yesterday. In a game where you schemed up, and this is, again, Nate Geary, credit to him. In a game where you schemed up one shot downfield to Diggs, that worked. He got behind the defense. Josh Allen overthrew him. You have 6 second and short situations to give yourself a chance at a big play. And at worst, you're left with a 3rd and manageable. But because we have a conservative head coach who doesn't want to take a shot.
And Nate makes it worse here. I'm looking at it. They were all the same exact run play.
Yep.
All 7 of those plays that he just read off, those second and shorts, they were all the same runs.
For a quarterback in Josh Allen who, coming into this season, every pregame that Bills fans have watched, what's the biggest thing that the analysts talk about with Josh Allen? When he drops back, you don't know what he's going to do. You don't know if he's going to uncork a 60-yard bomb. You don't know if he's going to throw it short. You don't know if he's going to take off and run.
We now know he's not running.
You've neutered him. You've neutered him.
It's what we talked about in the previous podcast. You need to make your peace with what you hate about your football team and what you hate about your quarterback's tendencies, because those are the things that make you special. And if you don't harness them, you will die. You'll just die a mediocre death. You are just another pissant mediocre football team dying, except you're doing it with a elite talent that you are pissing away.
You're doing it with.
It's a choice.
A quarterback, the most important position in all of pro sports. A quarterback who
do you think the Saints would kill
29 teams in the NFL would give up their franchise for Josh Allen right now, with his contract and talent combined.
And so you are choosing to make the thing that makes your franchise special just another guy. Mm-hmm. You're doing it intentionally, and at this point, it becomes malfeasance.
Do you think that the Buffalo Bills got 6 primetime games last year and this year because they want to watch Sean McDermott coach a defense?
This is it.
Clap on the sidelines when things don't go the right way and say, "Come on, guys, we'll get them next time." You think that's what the NFL goes? Yeah, let's put that on primetime football 6 times this year.
I'm out of sticks. I'm out of carrots. I have nothing else. There is nothing else that anyone can do. Terry Pagula is the only one who can step in here and go, guys, let's end this fucking lunacy because you're making us all look bad. But I don't know where his head's at.
Help us, Terry. You're our only hope.
Guys, do I have to start flying a plane? Chris, like the Jets fans who were fighting.
And say what you want about.
Whoa. Yeah. I'm going to say what I want. This is what I'm going to say. This goes back to something I started texting you all about and was smart enough not to bring to the podcast until now, because now it's timely. Last season, during the Kansas City Chiefs game, when we were struggling and it looked like things were going to go south, I kept calling Sean McDermott John Fox. I kept trying to have the conversation about John Fox and the Peyton Manning Broncos, and how it's cool that you're this. Yeah, you got a quarterback who's throwing you 50 touchdowns. He's setting the touchdown single season record, and it doesn't fucking matter, because when it matters, your team will turtle. And people know that. They just know they need to hit you hard enough, punch you hard enough, keep fighting you. You'll implode and then fuck up and then shelter and die. The Broncos come off a Super Bowl loss. Everyone goes, well, they got to the Super Bowl. That should be good enough, right? Mm-hmm. They fire their coach and they bring in an offensive guru. Now, mind you, Peyton Manning is a shell of himself. He goes out there the next season and he's washed. Mm-hmm. They win a Super Bowl that year. Why? Because their coach understood that the defense is defense is defense. Defense no longer wins titles. Now it's what do you do with the talent you have, and can you squeeze just enough out of what's left here in order to win a title? And he figured it out. Gary Kubiak did the job. John Fox was content to just, well, my defense is amazing and my offense is scoring 50. You are so conservative as a coach that you had to be fired. You had to be taken away from what was going to be a Super Bowl team because it can't win with you here. Mm-hmm. You are an impediment to everything we're trying to do. I feel like this conversation we keep having, the blame keeps getting passed around. Ryan, here's what I want to ask you. If we're insurance adjusters and we just walked into a car crash that is this fucking New England game, and we're trying to figure out who's actually to blame, you've got guys like this, like Kevin Massara here, who we've made no bones about. Like, I don't have to sugarcoat this. Kevin, I don't dislike you as a person, but holy shit, do you tweet some things. What is this? Draft value ranking.
Yeah. DVR, which is different from DVOA, different from all the acronyms.
Okay. Chris, the draft value ranking? Draft value ranking, doesn't it sound oddly familiar?
Yeah.
Wasn't there some other idiot that tried to have a website that was like, hey, I'm going to score the draft? And we were like, no one gives a fuck. Do you win games or not?
Yeah.
I don't need you to tell me that one team has historically drafted better than the other because the draft value score of this. Who gives a fuck? Did you win the game? Did this team draft enough guys who changed the course of that football game? If not, I don't give a shit.
Yep.
You score whatever you want. What does the scoreboard say? Mm-hmm. Okay, well, that's where the Bills currently live. And now Kevin's doubling down on this nonsense by trying to defend. Oh, Brandon Beane's done a great job. Look at the draft value. Who gives a fuck?
Do you know who's oddly missing from this list?
Who?
I don't see the Chiefs anywhere on this list.
Yeah.
So that, man, I wish they would draft a little better. You think their fans wish the Chiefs were a
Chris,
little bit better on DVR?
DVR? Wait, DVR. I was like, oh, wait, what the fuck is he talking? Oh, no, yeah, the DVR.
Yeah.
DVR,
I'm trying to be hip
DVOA.
and call it the DVR, because everybody knows what that means, right?
I'm going to put a gun in my mouth if they come up with another fucking acronym.
Back to the offense. Bo Body.
Bo Body.
Bo Body.
Bo Body.
What's the first letter stand for?
What is the first letter? And that's it. That's what I feel like.
I like it.
It's Creed Bratton standing around going, I've got an acronym. I don't know what it means yet. Let's figure it out together. What the fuck are we doing? This is a team that has flaws and has problems, and it extends beyond just the players. It's not just players failing to execute. It's coaches failing to recognize the limitations of the players. It's coaches failing to recognize that it's not a good idea to give cushion to bad wide receivers. It's coaches not recognizing that, hey, maybe I don't need to ham-fist Dawson Knox into all these passing situations and draw up designed plays for this guy, when realistically there's a more sure-handed tight end. Sure, he's a rookie, but who gives a fuck? He's better than that guy.
He's caught 35.
And he's healthy.
He's caught 35 of his 37 targets this year.
And he's healthy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So why wouldn't you put him in that position? Run the same route. Make it for Knox or Kincaid instead of Knox.
Mm-hmm.
No.
You know what they did?
We die on the hill of coaching,
yeah.
And then we take our frustrations and we go, Josh is broken. This is broken. The players aren't good enough. The tackling just, you might not be able to fix that. They might just be a bad tackling defense. They have been for pretty much since McDermott
but again,
got
it goes back to coaching. Like, you can teach guys how to tackle.
Can you, though?
NFL.
Can you?
It's the NFL. These guys know how to tackle.
So what are you? So the question is, what are you doing?
I don't know. And this goes back to the other show that we were talking about. I don't know. Right? Like, I don't know the answer. I'm not going to be the guy on Twitter who I'm gonna say, like, I think they should do this. I don't know. I'm not an NFL head coach. It's not my job to know. You know whose job it is to know how to fix the tackling? Sean McDermott. It's his job to know.
And this is it. And yet we're still here. So if I'm being the insurance adjuster who's trying to figure out how to assign blame here, here's what I'm looking at. I've got a quarterback who goes thermonuclear in the middle of games and just sets some people on fire for a handful of drives, and that's it. And that either wins or loses. Like, that's it. That's his best effort, and it's worth at least 14 points a game, where it's just the Josh Allen show and nothing matters, and it's him freewheeling, just making shit up as he goes. That should terrify everybody. That guy can by himself make up 14 points in a football game. That's why Vegas doesn't want to bet against us, because they know the day that they go low and they say, well, this is a 2.5-point game, Josh Allen's going to go fourth quarter Josh Allen and just light them on fire. At the same time, he's not without blame in this. He makes some poor decisions, and I think he's... All I can do is I can go back to the end of last year when they go, oh, Stephon Diggs is screaming at Josh Allen, there's fracturing, they're not getting along, whatever. But then the sideline audio gets picked up, and all you can hear is Stephon Diggs yelling, stop listening to that guy.
You know,
Diggs knows who Josh Allen is. He knows what's been going on, and he sees what happens in those meeting rooms, how this goes, how the installation process happens. If Diggs is not on your side when it comes to Josh, he's on Josh Allen's side. If he's not on Dorsey's side, then neither am I. Yep. I'm done. I'm finished here.
But
after watching that press conference today, whose fault is that? Is he literally just being held hostage by a coach who says, I know better, you're here because I said so and because that quarterback said so. So you're going to, and again, second season as an offensive coordinator. Does he not know enough to tell Sean McDermott, listen, Sean, stay in your lane, I'll stay in mine? Brian Daboll did. But Brian Daboll also had 2 years to Chris, how many years? At least 3 years of NFL head coaching experience. Plus, he had a national title collegiately before he came to Buffalo. Daboll had established himself. Dorsey was just kind of like, hey, thanks, guys, for picking me. How much of an obligation does that guy now feel after watching that? Guys, I'm telling you, go watch the presser. The way he answers the question about how much influence Sean has on the offense, I now have a whole different perspective on how this whole thing is happening. And then I look at our head coach and our defensive coordinator and I go, well, if you don't let a dog shit offense walk you down the field and score a game-winning touchdown, we're not having this conversation. So fuck you. I would put most of the blame in Sean McDermott's lap where I think it belongs. And ultimately it doesn't matter because there's a game this week. There's a game in 3 days. Hopefully he's up for this one, but I don't know. And if he's not, and if we're looking back at this, like this is the watershed moment for this team where they really did just expose who they actually are, and the franchise did nothing. And then going into next offseason, they choose to do nothing. We now know we're signing up for more of the drought. We know we've backslid. We've done the thing that semi-successful franchises. Chris, your earlier take. The Chargers?
Yeah.
Let's expand on that a little bit for everybody.
It's the early, could be on the path to be the early Chargers. Good for 10 wins, 11 wins, 12 wins, sometimes 13 wins, home playoff game, and you lose and you barely make it to the AFC title game. And you're just a consistent playoff team, and that's it.
And realistically, nobody ever remembers you or knows that you existed.
No.
Great. Wonderful. I'm glad that we've done this. So now, all we can hope is they can unfuck themselves. But before we give our final thoughts, we have to, Chris, run down the people who have it worse than Buffalo Bills fans.
The worst.
Can we start with the Chargers head coach, Brandon Staley? He's kind of a marked man right now, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, he's a marked man because he's not a very good coach, though.
But this is it. So you're a guy who, I was telling Chris earlier, like you lost 31-17. 31-17, a lot like the Eagles' final score, to your divisional rivals, the Kansas City Chiefs, who last year they lost 2 games, basically like on last-minute plays. They had the game in the balance of a single play, and their offense couldn't perform. So Brandon Staley. Chris, can you pull up his win percentage or just go to Pro Football?
Yeah, I'll pull it up. You want to know my thing on this?
Well,
when he got hired, when Brandon Staley got hired, Do you remember who else was up for that job?
Who? Anthony Lynn?
Brian Daboll.
Oh, Brian Daboll.
So you could be seeing right now a Chargers-led team.
Can you imagine?
Yeah, just imagine Justin Herbert with
in a Brian Daboll.
Brian Daboll.
That could be in the AFC. Instead, you chose Brandon Staley.
He's got a .525 win percentage, 21-19 over 2.5 seasons.
You hired a 500 coach, and listen, Ron Rivera has proven that 500 coaching it can keep you around for a while.
Yeah.
The problem is that they just extended their quarterback.
Yeah, give him a lot of money.
Which means that the franchise recognizes that you are the future. Well, then if we talk about the transitive property, if you're the future, and even though the team has been bad, statistically, playoff-wise, like you had one playoff appearance and your defense shit the bed in the second half and you lost the game. You have one playoff appearance in the last how many years?
They were in the playoffs last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but prior to that, how many years do you have to go back to find a playoff appearance for them?
Let me look.
You literally have been struggling for a long time.
2022, 2018, 2013.
Okay. So you've had gaps where you haven't even been in the show. You finally make it. You shit the bed again. Okay. No win, but you made the playoffs. We've decided that Justin Herbert is the answer for this franchise. Well, that's almost by default saying we don't believe that Brandon Staley, like you can't be the problem. But we're a 2-win team. We're a 2-win football team 7 weeks into the season. Who's the problem then? It's just process of elimination. Brandon Staley right now is in a lot of trouble. That guy's going to be unemployed. How long do you think it takes? Do you think this is a mid-season firing?
I guess I'd have to look at their coordinators. I don't know who.
Why did you think Kellen Moore took that job this offseason?
I forgot Kellen Moore's there. So
Wait, did he just Doug Marone him? Where he goes, hey, when Doug Marone joined the Jaguars that year, knowing as the offensive line coach, but had it negotiated that he was the assistant head coach, he knew. He goes, Gus Bradley stinks. When he gets fired, I'm going to take this thing. It's going to be great.
Yeah.
Do you know if Staley gets canned midseason, it's going to be Kellen Moore.
So here's what I want to see.
Which is interesting because usually it's not. Usually if you make a move like that, you don't bring in a first-time head coach to be the interim. Usually it's a guy who's done it.
Also, you'd want to keep Herbert happy.
Yeah.
Here's what sucks. The Chargers are 11th in points for their team. They're 8th in total yardage. Those are pretty solid metrics in the NFL. You are also 31st in yardage against, and you're 25th in points against. So it's a lot like we were talking about tonight with Sean McDermott. Why are you here? We already identified what our future looks like. What else are you? Okay, so Sean McDermott will always get credit for breaking the drought. Awesome. You did a thing for me. You built a franchise. You built a roster. We have veterans. We have all these things. Now what do you do for me? You raised me to here, but I need to be here. If you can't take me here, then I can't be here. Like I can't be stuck in limbo with you forever. That's Marvin Lewis territory.
Yeah. I saw brother Bill actually tweeted it out after the game on Sunday, and I thought it was well said. Sean McDermott will take a bad roster to the wild card. He'll also take a great roster to the wild card.
And that's it. This is who you are as a coach. So at a certain point, the Chargers are going to look at Brandon Staley and go, you are a guy who's taking one of the best offenses and is a defensive head coach. You're a shit show. You can't coordinate to a defense that can help this matter. So we got to move on. At what point will the Bills have the balls to do that? What, one AFC title game appearance saves his job for how long? How long do we have to stand here in memoriam and go, well, he's bad. It's like the Joe Paterno thing. All the rape allegations aside. It's the, hey, you're not good anymore.
Well,
but the nostalgia of you being here and what you've done for this program somehow somehow is more important than what you're putting on the field today.
Well, it's the point, and I don't know who it was. You retweeted something that I tweeted yesterday about Dorsey.
Yep.
I said this is a game. This is a result that someone needs to lose their job.
Yeah.
Out of this result yesterday.
Don't care who.
And the response was, well, what's your option if it's not Dorsey? And my answer was, I don't care. The question is it working or not? If it's not working, then what difference does it make whether it's Dorsey or Joe Brady? If it's not working, it's not working.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, bring in Joe Brady.
It's devil you know versus devil you don't, right? And if the devil you know isn't working, then go get me the devil you don't.
Exactly.
Because it can't get worse.
No.
Right?
No,
it can't get worse by then losing to the 1-5 Patriots.
No, it cannot. Also, people who have it worse than us, Kareem Jackson. One of the first players suspended for egregiously flaunting the personal foul rule since Vontaze Burfict.
Yeah.
That's wild.
How many games did he get?
4.
4. Yeah, it's not surprising. He'll appeal it down to 2, right? Like that's
I don't think you allow him to appeal that. These were all.
Oh, he'll appeal it.
When you
They'll
watch,
appeal everything.
sure, appeal it.
He did appeal it.
But
Yeah,
I
they'll
think
appeal
that.
everything.
But I feel like they should uphold this. Have you seen the plays?
Oh yeah, I saw it. Yeah.
It's some of the dumbest defensive plays I've ever seen. This is a guy who's throwing his body around there trying to hurt people. They're stupid hits. They're outside of the... Like, I've watched Jordan Poyer be flagged for much, much less. Mm-hmm. I've watched that for much, much less. It's wild to me that that's a thing you're going to... Like, you're going to attempt this in a game.
They're dangerous hits too.
And that's it.
Yeah.
And he's already concussed multiple people. So now they're looking at it going, you're a safety issue. Mm-hmm. We have to step in and do something.
Yeah.
Kareem Jackson is going to miss 4 games and a bunch of time. And it's just, it comes for a Denver team that's like just trying to find its stride. Like they're trying anything just to get their thing going. And they go, oh, we have a good player. Well, he's gone. Mm-hmm. Kareem Jackson's like, I almost wonder if it's on purpose. He's like, man, get me the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
I'm tired of getting beat. I'm tired of getting beat up. Tired of getting blockers into the third level of the field. He goes, dude, I'm a safety. If I see another guard in my face, yeah, I'm going to hit everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm taking everybody out.
It's just interesting, and it's a massive loss. But nobody had more losses than the Dolphins' offensive line coach. Ooh. How do you think this week's going to go for him? He's going to go in there and go, hey, Lester Cotton. Hey, former Alabama alum, you suck. You just showed your ass to everyone on Sunday Night. The whole country watched you stink. You took a touchdown off the board with a holding call, a blatant holding, that ruined what could have been a productive drive and also might have derailed all the momentum we were trying to build towards coming back in this football game.
You know what the Dolphins have coming up next week?
What's that?
Get right game.
Of course.
Against the Patriots.
Because they have good coaching. It's sad. I trust their coaching.
I trust McDaniels. Yeah, I trust him to figure out what's going on with the offense.
It's weird that we do that, right? Like all of a sudden somebody comes in who just looks sharper, seems to know what they're doing, and you go, oh, an offensive guy.
Oh, that's what an offense is supposed to look like.
Oh, because offense wins in football.
Yeah.
Awesome. So it's offensive coaches just winning all the way around, and I have this guy, Sean McDermott, who it's like, look, I love you for what you did for my franchise.
Yeah.
The shine has worn off you.
And for me, Bean.
I mean, Chris, at this point, let's get our final thoughts here as we wrap this thing.
Hold on, people who have it worse. Mooney's on Union.
Oh, boy.
Closed down.
Wait, what?
Yeah. Mooney's on Union is closed.
Can I say this? I can reminisce about that place for an hour.
Well, that's where we met.
That's where Chris and I met.
When it was called, what was it called?
Tony Rome's.
Tony Rome's.
And the owner of Tony Rome's used to do a ton of blow, and he would be out there in a suit coat talking to people in the bar. And I remember me and my friend Bob, who was a groomsman in my wedding, had each other in headlocks one night, just drunk. We were doing Long Island iced tea races, and he comes out and goes, "You guys are friends. What are you doing?" And I go, "You're allowing this to continue. You're not even trying to break it up. What's wrong with you?" That's the type of establishment we're talking about. Mooney's, Chris, Tony Rome's was missed. Mooney's had no identity and their food was terrible. They imagine overcooking a piece of grilled chicken.
Oh.
It's an unforgivable sin.
Yeah.
Chris, what's worse than dry chicken?
Your chili.
My chili rules.
Well, I hate chili in general, so
I know. My ribs?
I hate your ribs. I don't eat ribs because of you.
Ouch.
So, yeah,
It's a big indictment.
I puked
Guys,
all over.
so long. Sayonara to Mooney's over there in fucking Union.
I need a beer.
Oh, you need a beer?
I'm out.
What?
I'm out.
No, we need one for this.
We got time.
Because here's it.
Now we need to keep talking through this beer.
No, because we're going to close the show out like this. Ryan, final thoughts. You said something the other day that really struck me. As we were talking about what this week is going to look like, the trade deadline, what this team should be thinking and what they will be thinking, and how like we felt emotionally about them before they lost to the Patriots. This was well before they lost to the New England Patriots. You kind of regaled me with the story of your family's history with sports and how always rooting for the team that's just close enough. What a detriment that is to you personally.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that a little bit. So your grandfather, you got to watch him. What was your sport?
It was baseball. He was a Red Sox fan.
Okay, so let's talk about it.
Grew up a Red Sox fan, right?
Yeah.
So, and everybody knows the history of the Red Sox. And it was, just year after year. This is our year. This is our year, kid. It's this year. This is the team, right? This is the one. And it never came. It never came. And this is a man who lived through, served in World War II, survived that, lived a long life, as a milk delivery guy, just a normal salt of the earth guy. Loved his baseball, loved his family, and he passed before he ever got to see the Red Sox win one. And every year I watched what it was like for him to invest in a team, so much into a team that this is the year. And he was
The Aaron
fucking Boone. That was the year for the Sox, right? Like it was, those of you who know, right? Aaron fucking Boone, it was game 7. They had the lead. Boone hits the home run, goes on to lose to the Marlins. Everybody felt the Marlins didn't belong in that World Series. This was the year, right? Marlins had already advanced to the World Series. Everybody knew what was at stake. This is the year, kid, right? Like, this is our season. The Red Sox came in as a wild card that year, but they had gotten hot. They were the better team in that series against the Yankees. They were the better squad. They had that game won. And you just watched it, crush him.
This is a man who fought a war.
Because
he's crushed by a baseball.
Because this is, as you age, as we've aged, we've talked about this when it came to stadium time and stuff like that. You start to compartmentalize and wrestle with, I don't want to get too deep, but you start to wrestle with morality or, of your own, mortality, right? And for him, it was, he's in his 80s. Like, if not this year,
then never.
This is the year, kid, right? Like, because he thought it was the year and he wanted it to be the year at the same time, right?
Yep.
And now, I look at my father, I've had season tickets with him. We go to every game together. He's been there next to me at almost every game that he can make it to. He's now in his 70s. And he's told me, my last game that I go to will be the first game in the new stadium. And then I'm not going to go to games anymore. It's just, I'm too old. I can't do it. Yada, yada, right? And you and I had this conversation yesterday. And I had this conversation with another group yesterday as well, where I've come to the realization, as big a Bills fan as I am, as much as I've invested in this team, I've had season tickets for 20 plus years. I own more Bills clothes than I own any other clothes combined, right? I've started to come up with the idea that I don't want my son, my daughter, to watch this team do to me what I've watched it do to my dad. First time I ever saw my father cry. My father and my uncle both wide right. The first time and probably one of 4 times in my entire life I've ever seen him cry. That team did that to him, right? Now I look at the Bills. They finally break the drought. They've got a star quarterback. Best quarterback that we've had in franchise history. And I'll fight anyone who disagrees with me. Mm-hmm. Best quarterback they've ever had in franchise history. Best wide receiver they've ever had in franchise history. 13 seconds. Then it's retool, got the team, we beat the Chiefs in the regular season, and you get embarrassed against Cincinnati. My father's sitting right next to me getting embarrassed against Cincinnati at home. And I told you this yesterday, and I stick by it because I thought on it after we talked about this. My fandom will not survive if this team does not go out and win a Super Bowl before my father passes away. When my father's time is up, if the Bills have not won a Super Bowl, I will not survive that as a fan. I'm not going to do it. This team is, we've talked about it a couple times tonight. At a certain point, you have to go for it. The message has to come from the top down, from the bottom up. Someone has to make the message that at a certain point, and we say it all the time in business, we say it all the time in our personal lives, shit or get off the pot. You've got a $250 million quarterback. Are you going to be, you've got the quarterback, you've got the receiver. Are you going to be the head coach that gets compared forevermore to Marvin Lewis, John Fox,
Norv Turner,
Marty Schottenheimer,
insert middling coach here, Jeff Fisher, whoever, whatever. Jeff Fisher, 500 record for an entire career.
Fuck that guy forever.
Are you going to be Ron Rivera? All these coaches on and on and on and on and on.
You love Ron Rivera. You will be him.
Are you going to be
Sean? You will be. Sean needs to understand that you will be Ron Rivera for your entire life, and your career will be much shorter.
And I'll go another step.
Not figure this out.
Brandon Beane. Are you going to be the GM? Are you going to be the GM?
Do you want to get sucked down by that guy?
Are you going to be the GM who got Flowers all the credit in the world for going out and bringing Stephon Diggs to this team in Buffalo?
Yep.
And what does it mean if he retires a Bill or leaves this team without a Super Bowl win? It means fuck all is what it means. Mm-hmm. So are you going to be the GM that doubles down and says our window isn't going to close because I'm going to kick it open by going out and making a deal? And again, it's not my job to figure out what that deal is. It's not anyone's job on Twitter to figure out what that deal is. It's the job of the professional GM who's getting paid to build a roster and the professional coach who's getting paid to coach a football team to go out, shit or get off the pot, strike now.
He strikes me as the mayor in Ghostbusters, where it's like you need to be swayed by somebody. I don't know who, but it's like, look, what we needed is a Peter Venkman who's willing to go in there and go, Murray, look what. So what if I'm wrong? Then we go to jail. We'll do it peacefully, quietly. But if I'm right, and you make these calls, then you will have saved the lives of millions of registered voters. Like, you're talking about that, but that's someone in the building has to be able to have that sway. In all the successful franchises, it's the head coach whose eyes are on the offense.
Yep.
I don't give a fuck if you think that, hey, we need to make a couple defensive trades and that's what it's going to be. I don't care what it is. You need to make something happen, whether it's in-house, whether it's structurally, philosophically. Look like a
philosophizing.
Look like a philosophizer. Philosophically, it doesn't matter. It has to be different. And if it isn't, guess what? You're all going to get fired. Mm-hmm. I would rather, and I always say this, I'd rather be the guy who goes out on my shield than comes slinking back with it. Mm-hmm. And then I got to, slink off into mediocrity? Nah. Yeah. I'll die. It's that dynamic here that they need to find. Yeah. And that's the thing. I think we're all feeling a little bit of Ryan the way he feels now. I'm looking at this going, if you just keep this together, how much more am I supposed to give a shit?
Right. How
much more am I supposed to care if you keep this going? You hit the nail on the head, man, and I just hope that they have something. Something. It's on them to show it to us, and the trade deadline's approaching. We're going to talk about it in this week's AFC's Roundup for tonight. We got to get the fuck out of here because Chris is already rounding it up for about 5 minutes. I'm Drew Gear. That's Chris Kruger. That's Ryan Lasal. Ryan, where can people follow you on social media?
At Ryan Lasal _RSN, and make sure you check me out on hashtag sports as well. I do a lot of stuff with Mario and Paul over there, a lot of fun stuff. So make sure you follow them on all the socials also, so you know when we go live.
We got to get the hell out of here. I'm Drew Gear, Chris Kruger, Ryan Lasal. This has been the Rock Pile Report.